break, if we call it that. I hope your Easter has been great. This is one of the very special occasions that ordinarily people would have traveled, gone to connect with family and friends, and just taking a holiday somewhere. But of course, given the times we're in, it's not doable. But here's the good part: we get to spend time with our families any way we want, but around our home. So it's an opportunity to do things slightly differently from the way we would have. Perhaps a break from tradition is actually a good thing in itself. So I hope you found new ways to celebrate this Easter with your families. I hope you've also had chance to call those you really love and see that they're fine and that they're doing great. I hope your Easter has been good. Happy Easter once again, and I hope you're keeping safe and you're keeping well. So if you're joining us on Sharing with Yemi today, welcome. Please say hello. We're back on the show. This is our Motivation Monday. And in just about 4 minutes, we're going to kick off formally. I've got two fantastic individuals who are going to share off the work that they're doing within their community with us. And those things you're going to hear today are quite inspiring. So it might spur you to do something within your community as well. So stand by, share, like, tell somebody to tell somebody that Sharing with Yemi is back again this week. It's Easter Monday, and as usual, it's the bank holiday, and I hope that you've done something really nice and different with it today. So, hello, Tokwe Forward. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you for connecting with us. Wherever you are, do connect with us. Send your message. Say hello. Let's see you today. It will be great to have your questions as well. I would love you to connect with us. My guests are people who are so used to working within the community, and they're going to be sharing some of the things they're doing. So perhaps you have questions for them. You might be able to pick up one or two things that would help you in your community in this challenging times. Learn some of the things that you're doing as well. Hi, Esther. It's great to have you. It says your voice is fantastic. Oh, thank you, Esther. You are so kind. Thank you so much. Happy Easter to you. Happy Easter to you and your family. I hope Easter has been good. How have you spent your Easter, Esther? Ooh, nice. Esther, how was your Easter? Tell us. Talk where, how was your Easter? I hope you've had really good one and that you and your family, you're all keeping well. Thank you, everyone who's joined in. I can see that we have a number of people joining us today. Do share. Invite your friends. Ask them to stand by. We're going to kick off formally in another 2 minutes. So do share with us. Let me know how you are doing. What are things like in your area, in your community? How did people celebrate? You could have looked out through the window, or you could have seen your neighbors. How do you think people celebrated? I saw a video earlier today of people. Somebody had put a stereo, a speaker out in his neighborhood and was playing music, and people were actually stepping out into their front garden and dancing, which was really nice. Hi, Shade. Thanks for joining us. It's great to see you. Hello to you too. I hope your Easter's been beautiful. Very good. I saw another video today of a gathering. Well, it wasn't really a gathering. A musician who was a saxophonist had been invited to go and perform at an isolation center. And he was out there playing, and some of the guys who were in isolation came out. There was very good social distancing, I have to say. And they were dancing. So they celebrated Easter really beautifully. That was really nice. So people came up with different lovely ideas to celebrate so that they don't feel lonely. And they could get their neighbors out to dance and, keep up the spirit. So we need to start thinking more of creative ways to keep our minds busy, to keep our minds engaged, so that we don't get weary, we don't get tired. It's some people might say it's easier said than done, which is absolutely true. I agree with that. But you see, the thing is, if we don't try, we wouldn't know if it will work. So we've got to give it a go and see if it works. And the knowing is in the trying. So it was lovely to see people try out new things. And it was great to see that it worked for the communities that we're working in. Raban, thank you for joining us. How are you today? Happy Easter to you and your family. I hope your Easter has been great. Mine has been good. So it's 7 o'clock. Good evening, everyone, and let me formally welcome you to Sharing with Yemi, our Motivation Monday. Our Monday is the day where we try to keep up the high spirits, keep ourselves excited, share of the things that help us stay active and alive. And I hope that in meeting my guests today, you will be inspired. So today we're going to look at some of the things that have been done in communities in different parts of the world, how people are keeping spirits high. If you remember on one of our Motivation Mondays, we had a lady, Anna, from Italy, who had shared with us what the Italians were doing, coming out into their balconies and singing and keeping themselves engaged. And she talked to us about some guys who were exercising on their balconies as well. And you had a guy who was standing right in the middle of a courtyard and helping people exercise. So that was really good. And we had somebody from Dallas speak to us about what her community was doing, and somebody also from Sierra Leone sharing with us what her community was doing. So today we're going to be sharing with a community in Ireland, in my county, Meath, what this beautiful community is doing to keep spirits high and to keep together and to build a great community spirit. This is one thing that we need in this really challenging times, community spirit. And if it wasn't there before in some communities, well, this is the time we need to learn what it means in the first place and how to get it into our community. And these are two people who obviously are working within the communities with a number of other people to build community spirit. And they're going to be sharing of their experiences with us today. So it's my honor and pleasure to welcome to Sharing with Yemi, our Motivation Monday, my first guest today, all the way from the community of Athboy, Dara Englishby. Hi, Dara. It's great to have you on Sharing with Yemi.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on today. It's good to be here.
Thank you so much, Dara. I'm going to start with your name. Englishby. This was the first thing I asked you when we connected, and I said, Englishby. Is that an Irish name?
It is an Irish name. It comes from the Irish word "gologly" is how we say it in Irish, and probably many years ago it was anglicised, to Englishby. So it translates into gologly, which stands for gallowglass, which were a mercenary soldier from Scotland many, many years ago.
Wow.
There aren't too many of us, but there are variations of it. You might hear the name Gologly, or you might hear the name English. So they're all variations of the same name.
Very good.
It is unusual.
And you're originally from Athboy.
I've lived in Athboy for about 21 years.
Okay.
I actually used to live close to Navan myself for many years also. Hi to everybody in Cllr. That's where I used to live. But I've been living in Athboy for the past 21 years. Yeah, so I love it. I love it here.
So you are like myself, a blow-in.
A blow-in, yes.
But you know what I tell people when they say, "Oh, Yemi, you're a blow-in," I always say, "Well, the wind blew me in the right direction."
That's very true. I can certainly say that for Athboy. I've never been made feel like a blow-in, and I know in some parts people say they often feel a little bit on the outside, but I've certainly never felt that in Athboy. So
absolutely
very grateful for that.
Yeah, I suppose it's the way one connects. Just like myself, I've never felt out of place in Navan.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things, I moved to Navan, it's almost 20 years now. And that's one of the things that really kept me here in Navan. I connected.
Yeah.
I just fell in love with the town. And I mean, you really have to you have to uproot me now to get me out of Navan. For me, Navan is on. I'm a Navan girl, me.
You got the lingo down.
So it's great to have you on Sharing with me.
Thank you, Yemi. Yeah.
And joining us on the show today as well is a good friend and a colleague, and he also is an Athboy man. It's great to have you on the show, David Gilroy. Thank you for joining me, David.
Hi, Yemi. How are you keeping? Are you well? I hope you're doing
Very
well.
good, thank you. I'll tell you something about David. You can't meet David and not smile when you engage with him. David is always in such high spirits. You wonder, oh goodness, what's he on? I want some of that.
Very nice of you to say.
It's good to have you on Sharing with Yemi, David.
Thank you very much for having us on. And Dara, how are you?
I'm good, David. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a little community meeting here now, won't we? So, guys, first of all, let's know about Athboy. Tell us a little bit about Athboy, about the town itself. Tell us give us a little background about Athboy before we go into the work you're doing. So I'll start with you, David. David, tell us about Athboy.
Okay, Athboy is, if you were to put a Wikipedia search into Athboy, it would tell you that it's a small rural town situated in County Meath, primarily known for its agriculture. But the real thing about Athboy is that it is a very unusual place, perhaps we would consider, because there's a mentality that exists in the town. Really, it's around supporting each other, and it has existed for generations. So the population of Athboy is about maybe 2,500. Athboy area, immediate area, and it's a very historic town. It was very, very well prominent in the past. It's one of the 4 walled towns of County Meath. So there's a lot of history in the town. Maybe it has dropped off from prominence so much so in the infrastructure or in the physical sense, but it really is at the fore of community activity. We are we're very lucky, or very blessed to have a lot of community infrastructure in the place. We have a community centre. We have a number of different community spaces. We have a library. We have 2 very active church communities. So there's a lot of activity taking place. There's a lot of people are engaged with the community, and of course, like any town in the country or any town in the world, its primary resource and asset are the people who live within it. And what happens is when that sometimes is taken for granted, but what you see happening then in times like this, you see the real how that manifests itself, and we're seeing that now.
And that's the great thing. Dara, people, I loved what David said there about people being the key element that keeps the town going. And sometimes, like he rightly said, we take that for granted. But all said and done, whatever a place is as a result of how the people have made it. So what is it about Athboy that has kept you there for so long?
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly, as David said, the people of Athboy are its strength, and we are so lucky. We have quite a lot of community groups, and from when they're children, they're involved in different groups, whether it be an Irish dancing class, or whether it be a sports, the GAA club, and right up into their teens. We have Feroiga, we have Macra Firma. So I think getting children in at a young age doing community activity, it brings them along, and then when they're older, they really begin to show their leadership qualities. So we are so lucky in Athboy that we have a heritage of this kind of community spirit going, and we have so many people in the past who have been shown amazing leadership qualities. So it stands to us in times like this, as David said, when we need to get the community as a whole, it's not a problem, because we're used to working as a community in different areas, and so it works really well. But we have some fantastic community people here.
That's one key thing in building community. Sometimes you have people working, they're doing work in the community, right? But you have them in clusters. You don't have that connection. So you have different groups in different places doing different things, and you don't have them merging together. You don't have a space where they all can come together and say, yes, this is us as a community. So how do you manage to keep all the groups connected in Athboy? David?
Well, we have an organisation within our town as well that works extremely well. It's called the Athboy Development Forum, and what that is like an umbrella group for the area, and it has it kind of operates as essentially as an umbrella group. So it coordinates things, it helps people, it applies for local funding, for national funding. It manages the community centre, the St James's Hall, which is a secondary centre. It also works in collaboration with other groups within the town. So, and that's a very serious organisation with regards to the expertise that sits on that. So it is a company, it's a limited company, a partnership company, and it has been in existence for, I think, since 1999. So it has taken on different projects in the past, and it has also forms a very strong link to the local authority. And it's a proven link at this point. All of the people who have given their time generously over the years, and then have kind of taken on apprentices like myself, these are the people who, if you're looking to learn how to do something for your community, these are the people to watch, and these are the people who we learn from. And the names. If I start naming people, I run the risk of not naming somebody who's equally important. But there are people. There's a man, Eamon Cassidy is a man, of course. Without when you talk about Athboy, you can't mention Athboy without his name. And his birthday was there last week, so it'd be important to mention Eamon. But we've been watching these people, Dara, and anybody who's interested in community. You have plenty of people to learn from. My own parents were always very heavily involved in the community here in Athboy, as has everybody's parents. And that, as I say, it's not off the ground we lick it. We learn it from the people who go before us. And it's important for us to know as well that we're not really doing anything new. Maybe it's new now, this particular instance, but we're just doing in our time what they did in their time. And we're continuing the work, not starting it. We're continuing it, and we'd like to leave the place at least as good as it was when we got it, if not a little bit better, and also to pass it on to the next generation, as Dara said, with regards to leadership, and leadership coming from learning leadership from little people, learn leadership, and it very much in tune with what Dara is saying. Like, we're hoping to have a conveyor belt of great people as opposed to the odd great person.
Yeah. It's great that you said that we're continuing our parents had left behind. I mean, it would be the same when I was growing up as well. The idea of community spirit and communities coming together has been there from time immemorial. But I think maybe we're even going back to it because we literally almost lost it. Some communities have lost it because you find that people they've become so connected to social media that they've forgotten to engage with people. And so they were no longer getting engaged within the community. Instead, they were engaging with social media and hoping that will keep them connected to the community. And so times changed suddenly. You would find neighbors not knowing their neighbors as would have been the times those days. I remember when I was growing up, if I was coming back from school, right, and I came back from school through another street, which would have been a different street from the street I would walk through to get home usually, somebody would see me and go, "Come here. Are you not the daughter of so and so? Why are you on the street? This is not the way to your house. You better be back on your street now." Everybody looked out for one another, but you can't do that now. It's so different now. So maybe what's happening will help us remember the power of the community spirit we had. They say in Africa that it takes a whole village to raise a child. Maybe it takes us all as a global village to save ourselves now. Dara, you've been involved in the community. What got you involved in the first place?
Well, I suppose I came from a family who, took example from my father, would have been very involved in the GAA, for example. And, I come from a large family. There's quite a lot of us, so we would have always been encouraged over the years to become involved. And when I was a child, I was involved in a youth club. And then when I became a teenager, I got involved at Machra na Firma. And I suppose that was a big turning point for me in my life. And I got and even before I moved to Athboy, I was involved in a Machra na Firma club out in Wilkinstown. And when I moved to Athboy, I already knew a huge amount of people there because Machra na Firma have a very strong holding in Athboy also. So I would have, engaged with them in competitions and things like that. So Machra was definitely one of my main community activities, growing up. And of course, now I'm beyond the age of Machra, but it's a great organisation because I can still go back and I tend to go in and coach them for various competitions, the younger members, So apart from that, like through that, I met obviously the likes of David, and there's other organisations that we'd be involved in. We have a group there, Athboy 100, which is a history group that David could tell you a little about. Through Mockra, I've made many friends in the through doing music, and I'm part of Athboy folk group, and the Athboy St Patrick's Day Parade Committee. Like that, it's and a lot of these, you'll find a lot of these community groups have people from, we mix, so there's people who are in this community group,
Yeah.
There's a lot of crossover there, which is wonderful. And that helps us. You were saying earlier about, there being a little bit of distance between the groups. In Athboy, we have so much crossover that, somebody says, you're doing this, you nearly need to find out, well, who are you doing it on behalf of? There's so many groups.
You're wearing many different hats all the time.
But that's a wonderful thing, and for example, as I said there, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, the parade is a prime example of how the whole community can come together as a whole. There's so much planning involved in it. And then you've got all the local groups coming and putting forward a float on the day. And then you've got a little ceremony afterwards and people giving prizes. So that's one prime example. You've got festivals. We have, Athboy has a couple of festivals. The Blue Jean Country Queen Festival is one.
Yeah.
You have St. James's Fest. We ran the Leinster Fla was there last year. And I mean, there was hundreds and hundreds of local people volunteered for that. And it was just a wonderful show of community. So it's actually a privilege to be involved in these community groups.
Fantastic. I mean, you were talking there about having different hats on at different times. Yeah. And that in itself is a great thing. I know the feeling, because sometimes I go to an event and I'm thinking, okay, which hat am I wearing today? Where am I at again?
Yeah.
One thing that is sticking out for me from, what you both have said so far is, if you want to be a part of a community, engage. That's a simple thing.
Yes.
Engage. There's no science to it. It's not rocket science. Just get out there and engage. And in engaging, first thing is you make yourself known. Second thing is others become known to you. And then you become a support to your community. And if you need support as well, you're able to receive it. That's what I'm hearing from both of you. Having engaged with your community over time. And it's still happening. It's still continuing there. And I suppose that's why you have such a high community spirit in your town. There are a number of people, if you're just joining us, this is Sharing with Yemi. It's our Motivation Monday. And my guests today are Dara Englishby and David Gilroy, both from the Athboy community of Meath. And today they're sharing with us to motivate us, to inspire us to build further community spirit within our communities. The great work that they're doing with what they've set up called Athboy we're in this together. We're going to get to that in a minute. I want to welcome those who have just joined us. Thank you for joining us on the show. Please share, invite your friends, share with those who perhaps are not connected with us right now. And let's see how we can begin to build community spirit in different parts of the world. It might be a small community you're in or a large community. It doesn't matter. The fact is, we want to connect ourselves, and that's how we all become connected as a global village. Thanks, Michelle, for joining. Shay, it's great to see you here. Fatima, thanks for joining. Debola, it's great to see you all. Gladys says, I've never baked before in my life, and I baked during this Easter. Very good. So perhaps if only we could get a taste of that cake, we'll be able to tell you what it's like. So guys, let's go to Athboy in this together, which is an initiative that was started recently as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So how did that come about? And yes, David, you want to tell us how that came about, the initiative?
Okay, so the whole, as the media reports are coming, and we were being told to be prepared for this, get ready, COVID-19 is on the way, and it's something that's going to change, or certainly going to impact significantly how we live our lives. So it would be important. At the thought, there was obviously a lot of conversation, a lot of discussion around that. Oftentimes it's better to be able to respond than to react to something. So again, going back to what Dara and I were saying earlier on with regards to the community of Athboy, we have, like every community, there's a huge resource of expertise and knowledge that exists within every community. We have all manner of professions, vocations, and all manner of things that exist that make our community, that are our community. So I thought maybe it might be a useful thing to draw upon that. We know each, as Dara said, we know each other because we're all on the same committees as each other, or different committees, and everybody would have got to know each other over the last number of years. So of course, when everybody who was contacted was asked, like, we contacted a doctor, we contacted a pharmacist, we contacted a person who's involved in civil defence, the community centre chairperson, the business community, all aspects of what makes a community tick, and has it to say, would you like to become involved only as much as you can, as much as you're comfortable doing.
So no
and maybe
pressure on anyone.
Absolutely, all you can ask is what you can do, no more. So I said, and another reason is because these people were connected directly with streams of information that would be formal information. So there would be information coming from the HSE, coming from the civil defence or from the local authority, coming from volunteer organisations that send out, national organisations that send out information to their members, so that we could be quite sure, we can never be 100%, but quite confident that the information that we were presenting to people was the correct information. It wasn't the information from some lad's cousin who overheard it in a petrol station, and he was in buying milk. So we wanted to be sure that, because at a time like this, a sense of safety is so important, and a sense that there is something outside, people that you don't even know who are thinking about you. Maybe not you personally, but that you can connect to if you want to, that you're not on your own. And that was a very important part of it. And of course, as with the response of any solid community, the response was positive. Everybody said, what can we do? What do you need? And then brought their own ideas, their own take on things, their own innovations within our community. And that was kind of the first step around it. So the next step, obviously, is how do you connect with people? How do you know people? How do you let people know this exists? And also, how do you let people know across the different ways people access information? Lots of people are on Facebook, of course. So we set up the Athboy in This Together Facebook page. And within 48 hours, we had 1,000 likes on that page.
Wow.
So that's a very significant response. And then also there's a huge swathe of our community that aren't on social media. Maybe the older people, or people who just decide it's not for them. So we had to find a way of connecting with that. So through our Athboy hub, which is a community support office in Athboy, we generated a list of all of the kind of important numbers that might be needed. We printed hard copies and we circulated that to anybody who might need it. And that was our initial step. And then from speaking with our mutual friend and everyone's good friend and good friend of Athboy, Mr. Shay Casserly, who is one of the best men you'll ever meet, he and I had a conversation, and he of course then brought 1,000 ideas to play. And then we were talking to Dara and Emer Hartmigan, and they brought their 1,000 ideas. And then they talked to it was like a ripple in the pond. Everybody, we're all part of this big pond, I suppose, or this big connected sheet that spreads across the whole country, So there's nothing that we're doing that is not possible for any community to do. There's nothing that we're doing that's particularly new. We're just trying to be a little bit more organised, and not always serious. We're deadly serious in what we're doing. We're incredibly serious about what we're doing. But you don't always have to be serious in how you do it, and you don't have to be somber to be serious. And, it's important as well we collectively feel that, it's important to entertain people as much as inform people, to connect people through the soft friendship element of things, as well as the kind of formal, this is the information that you need, this is what you should be doing. There's so many other things that people need to do in order to be able to survive this, in order to be not terribly affected negatively by it. Of course, it's a very scary time, but we don't have to be scary about it. And it's if we can present the information in a factual way and present entertainment and what other people are doing within our communities. We're very lucky in Athboy as well. We have so many talented musicians. We live beside Racarn, which is a vibrant Irish cultural centre. So and we know them all. We know everybody in all our parish because we went to school with them, or we went to school with somebody belonging to them. So and we're lucky in that regard as well, to have that resource and that generosity that people will bring. And as you said earlier on when we were talking, I don't know if it was before we came online, people are just waiting to be asked to do something. And you ask them to do something and they will open their hearts and they'll say, what do you want me to do? And they'll do more than you could have ever imagined. because they have that to bring to. So that's where we started from anyway, and that's where we are, I think.
Awesome. Fantastic. I mean, this in itself is inspiration. Dara, when this kicked off,
Yeah.
did you get any resistance from any member of the community? And I'll tell you where this question is coming from. And I might get David to say something after you've spoken. There's some groups, some communities that might have had an idea to do something similar. May not be exactly the same thing, but something similar. But what you find then is one person has an idea, another person has an idea, and there's the struggle to merge the ideas together and do one big thing together. So you have people working separately, and the community is not completely benefiting from the different things that are within that community. So when this started, when Athboy and this together started, did you get any resistance from any part of the community?
I don't think we did. No, I think everybody understood that we needed to do this, and that it was for the best. It was for the, we had to do this. So certainly we didn't see anybody, going off on their own or coming up with not so much an alternative idea, but something that went against what we wanted to do. And I think as David said, by keeping it real, keeping to the facts, I think that's the most important thing about it, and some of the other things that were done at the earlier stages, because it started just around St. Patrick's Day, so it was like encouraging children to do up art, and the art was shared on the page. So, I mean, who can go against something like that, when you're getting children involved, so I don't believe there was, and David could probably tell you a little bit more because he was more involved in the setup of it. But everybody just wanted to come together, and, and I think that's what we have done. And like, as the title says, in this together, everybody is in it together. And unless David tells me otherwise, I don't believe there was anybody.
David, was there perchance anybody?
Not at all. Look, I'd never say that there are people who would like to do things, who have their own, like, we don't have a hive brain. Everybody has their own brain, and they think of, like, they want to set on and do their own ideas without maybe not being aware that things are happening. So what we've just very, very deliberately decided to do is support those groups. We're not the only group that are there. If there are groups that are doing other types of work that is just as valuable within our community, then we will say we will support you, and we will ask you for support if we need it too. And there are lots of, like, there's a wonderful initiative that was rolled out between the GAA and Centra, where the GAA and Centra came together nationally to work to deliver groceries and to deliver things to people's homes. So that was a fantastic way, and for the local GAA here at Clonagale and their chairman James Brady. The first thing that he did was say, how do we extend this across the community, not just to Centra? How do we bring it to the butcher? How do we bring it to the pharmacist? If that's, I know there's certain rules around delivery of medication, but how do we bring it to all of the shops within our town that are still essential services? How do we work with that? So we broaden our reach, we make it relevant to our community. So that was the first response of James Brady and Clonagale, and that was, I won't say it was another initiative. But our group is dynamic enough to work as part of other groups as well. So, and it can't be personal. It can't be about our group is this and your group is that. We must both be the same group. We may have different people doing different things at different times, but ultimately our objectives, our aspirations are precisely the same. We're looking to help the same people, and we're genuinely trying our best as community people. Again, we're not experts in the field. We have a steering group of experts, of course, which is something maybe that's a little bit innovative with our group. But we are certainly, we are not here for self-glorification. We are here to deliver to deliver the message that if you have an idea, if you think it's a good idea, then it probably is a good idea. The only thing you must remember is you're probably going to have to do a bit of work if you bring it up.
Yeah.
So that's really what the message is. But everybody's anxious to do things within the scope of where they can do it. We also have to remember the people. Like, you can be out flying around the community helping people, but you must remember there are people at home for whatever reason that you have to protect as well. So, you have to not bring home infection as well as these things. So there's plenty of reasons why people are involved to different degrees, because they've different life experience and different people relying on them, and they have, you know, the considerations that maybe you or I don't even thought of, you know, because everybody has their own lives and their own circumstances. But everybody so far, and I can't imagine it changing, who has come up with an idea, that idea has proven to be an excellent idea. The only thing that we would always hope is that it falls within the guidelines offered by the HSE, that it comes from best practice, and it does inadvertently offer a chance for exposure to something that maybe might be dangerous to themselves or to others. But that's all. That's all.
Fantastic. Very good. We have a number of people who've just joined us as well. They've joined us as the show's progressed. If you're just joining us, this is Sharing with Yemi. And today is our Motivation Monday. And we're sharing beautiful inspiration from Athboy, a beautiful town in Meath. And they're sharing with us their initiative, Athboy in This Together, an initiative that has brought together even more the people within the community of Athboy. Thank you for joining us. We have a few comments here. I'm going to take one or two of them. Michelle says, wow, didn't know about the initiative nor the Facebook group. We'll be joining the group now. There you go. You have one more new person joining you.
Excellent.
No, it's never really one. Once one joins, then you know you have a ripple. So there you go, new membership. Fantastic. Keith is joining us, and Keith says, good evening. All Athboy people are an inspiration for Meath and further field. Isn't that just lovely?
And we didn't even ask him to type that.
Oh, Keith, that's really kind of you. That's lovely. Adebola says, you guys are super inspiring. Thank you for what you do for the community. Great job. And Rabban says, everyone is a victim, but the good chance everyone is part of the solution. Absolutely. And that's brilliant. I want to take you to the mention you made earlier on about people coming with different ideas and working with all the different ideas to make it one good idea, and how you're all the different groups are connected within your community of Athboy. You mentioned that people who are working together don't see it as it's an idea kind of thing, but it is for the community. It's not about a person. Even though a person brings up the initiative, it's no longer about that person. It's now about the community, and everybody comes together. So I would ask both of you, from your experience of running this initiative in Athboy, what advice would you give to groups, to communities that have diverse people with different ideas, but they're struggling to bring it all together and to all work together? What advice would you have for them? I'll start with you, Dara.
Yeah, I guess, listen to what they have to say. And I mean, really listen. And, I suppose you do need somebody to coordinate. If you're going to run something, you do need somebody to coordinate it, but they have to be the right person, and they have to be the person that's willing to listen and think, okay, we can do this, and everybody has their own talents, and don't be afraid, to use them, because, for example, yesterday it was Easter Sunday, and we decided we would host a chat show. And it was a chat show, just a one-off. It wasn't, it's not going to happen every week or anything like that.
It was like a Sharing with Yemi.
But what we decided to do was, like that, we have, as David said, we have loads of musicians in the town. And we asked some of those musicians to pre-record a song, and then maybe come on and chat about it, or pre-record a message, or, we have somebody, Alma McLaury in town there, is running quizzes every Friday night, so she's doing something for the community, a virtual quiz. So she came onto the show and she chatted about it, so find out what's going on in your community and approach them. If they don't approach you, approach them. And, before you know it, you'll get everything together, but it needs a little bit of work. You can't just sit back and wait for people to come to you. In some cases, you have to go and say, I hear you're doing this. Come and talk to us about it, What do you think, David?
Very true. I actually agree with you right there. Don't wait for people to come to you. You can go to them. Once you hear that this is happening, You
Yeah.
can step up and say, can I get involved in this? I can contribute this. I can do this. Before you answered that, David, I want to say to people, if you're watching us right now, I would love you to tell us, what community group are you involved in your own community? What community group? Are you involved in any at all? And if you are involved, what community group are you involved in? And what do you do in that community, in that group? What do you do? What value do you add to the group? So start sharing that with us. David, please go ahead. Are you there, David? You seem frozen. I think we might have lost David there. So we'll wait until we get him back. Yes.
So I think it's just as we were saying there, it is important to reach out and, you know, to get people together, you know, and I think at the moment people are embracing this virtual community, obviously, because, you know, we can't, much as we'd love to, we can't go out and meet people face to face. So I think the whole virtual community is a big thing at the moment. And, you know, for a certain, you know, my own mum and dad, for example, my mum is on Facebook, my dad isn't, but they
Sorry.
watched the show yesterday, you know.
Yeah.
And if they're not on Facebook, you can still share a link on WhatsApp and they can watch something there. So there are ways around these things, you know, and you can reach out to a wider audience if you really want to.
Absolutely. I'll come back to that in a second, but I wanted to still take David's response to that initial question.
So sorry, the question was, I dropped out for a second.
Your advice for people in communities and for communities as well.
Absolutely. Well, I would think sometimes people who there are multiple different reasons why people become involved in their communities, and some of those reasons are based around the fact that maybe they feel that the community is kind of, there's different kind of groups or cliques within a community that, you know, there's a sense that you're not welcome to be part of everything. There's people who are in the know all the time and they want to keep it that way for themselves. Very can't or overstate this as enough. Everybody who lives within our community belongs to and owns that community as much as anybody else who does. There's no one who has a kind of a veto on community participation. You know, if you want to get involved, there is always someone there who'll help you do it. You know, if you look around the place, and in any community, Athboy is a good example of it, but it's not unique in that. Well, it's not exactly unique in that regard. If you want to get involved genuinely, the people who you would perceive as the community people, they want you to help them too. They want you to come along. You know, there's no ego in this. There's nothing that the people who are doing things in the community are doing it for you as much as they're doing it for anybody. You know, so when you see people out picking litter at tidy towns in the normal times, they're picking litter so that the place looks nice for you as much as for themselves.
Yeah.
The people who are training kids down in the local GAA club, they're training your kids as well as their own kids, or even sometimes not even their own kids, just your kids. If people who are in Mockra, or in Feroiga, or in any of the groups, they are there for you. They're providing a service voluntarily. So why not get involved? So the same thing works around the idea of getting involved now. When you think that something, from your experience living in an area, you maybe don't know, or you feel that need has not been met, go to somebody and say to them, this is something have you thought about this? And maybe they have thought about it. Perhaps they haven't thought about it. And then once you arrive at the idea, again, the only thing I would say is, you know, if it's a really ambitious idea, you're probably going to have to do a bit of work on it. You know, we'll support you. Everybody will support you. But if you know,
have to show leadership until it is established.
At least come to a few meetings and tell us what you're thinking.
Yeah.
You know? and we'll help you. There's no doubt about it. And the door is always open. This is not a predetermined group of people who decide what happens or doesn't happen in a town or in a community. There is no such group. There shouldn't be a group. There is a structure in place because in order to access funding or access policies or to have a proper formation of to allow the bigger infrastructure of things to happen, you need to have that structure in place.
Absolutely.
But for the day-to-day or just the involvement, the participatory end of things, Your idea is as good as anyone's. Just come on out, let us know what it is. And even if like, because someone doesn't agree with you, doesn't mean they're right. You know, it doesn't. You know, so, and these are the things that I think maybe, and it's not just lip service, or they're not just kind of things to be saying because they're nice, soft, fluffy things to be saying. That's the reality of it. You know, you own your community as much as anybody, and you are responsible for your community as much as anybody. So, you know, that bit of litter that you see on the ground, it's up to you to pick it up as much as it is to anyone else. But, you know, different people have different things to want in levels of engagement. So I would suggest around this particular idea, around if you have something that you think could benefit yourself or somebody you know or somebody who lives in our locality, let us know. It's there through the Facebook page. You see me walking around the place all the time. So it's so just say it to me, or the numbers. We have a dedicated number for the In This Together group. It's available on the Facebook page. Or you know the community people. You know the people who are out and about. Why not become one of them yourself?
Absolutely. And that's the key. Why not become one of them yourself? I'm going to take a few comments here, and when we're done with the comments, I want us to talk about people who are constantly on the negative and who seem to want to pull community spirit down. So we'll have a little chat about that. So before that, Michelle here says, I think Michelle lives in Athboy actually. This initiative can be really good for everybody, and especially also the young people in Athboy. I'm pretty sure that there are many talented young ones who can appreciate something as this. Apart from sharing the page, how can we make the young people aware of such an initiative? So this is a question from Michelle, that aside from sharing the page, how can we make more young people become aware of the initiative?
I would say a good way as good a way as any would be. Michelle sounds like somebody who might be a young person herself.
Yes, I believe
And
so.
a 40-odd-year-old man like myself probably wouldn't be the best person to relate to the needs and wants of younger people. Why doesn't Michelle get involved? Let us know. Contact us through the Facebook page.
Get involved. Perhaps you're the missing link.
You
So
could be that listen link, Michelle.
there you go. So I asked earlier for people to share what they do in their communities and how they involve. So Rapan here says, future parents, Uganda is an orphanage. So Rapan is in Uganda. Rapan is actually joining us from Uganda. Fantastic. Future Parents Uganda is an orphanage center that I started in 2018 for vulnerable children. And I am happy for doing that in my community. Oh, that's awesome, Raban. Well done. Well done. Adibala says, I belong to an online community called Home for All, which is a group mainly for folks who have recently relocated to Ireland for school or work. And we all engage daily, sharing ideas, resources, links to help us all excel in life. We make ourselves accountable to each other and form great friendship, helping each other. We meet physically only once a month. It's a great support. Well, I suppose you meet on virtually now because you can't meet physically, but that's a fantastic initiative. Well done, Adibola. And a few other people are still sharing here as well. But I want to come back to that issue I'd mentioned there about dealing with people who they're like physical trolls. You know, you have trolls online, but these people are trolls that are constantly in your face. You bring up a great idea, they're the first to pick a hole in it. You know, they don't seem to have an initiative, but they don't want to support an initiative. And when something starts to go well, they're picking holes in it, and so it's difficult to actually establish something. What would, if some people are listening right now and they're perhaps feeling frustrated that they have people around them like that, what do you have to say to those kind of people with trolls all around them who are picking holes in all the work that they're doing? Dara, I'll start with you first.
Yeah, I mean, there is negativity everywhere, I suppose you look, and there's nothing wrong with picking holes and things as long as you can give some constructive criticism, if you're doing it for a good reason. I think some people, though, just like picking holes and things, and you have to learn to almost ignore it. Having said that, you don't know what's going on in people's lives too, that this might be they might be taking it out on you, something that's going on somewhere else, you know. So like it can be a tough one. If you're being met with it constantly and from the same person, there has to be some reason that they're doing that, you know. So you probably have to delve a little deeper and find out why. And you know, if it's just that they're trying to cause trouble, then, you know, perhaps, you know, it's not the place for them. You know, they shouldn't be involved in that. You know, but I think you have to, you know, try and engage with them. Maybe have a little private chat with them. Say, you know, what is the problem, and try to get to the bottom of it firstly. You know, in my experience, I always find it's better to have a one-to-one chat with somebody about something, you know, rather than doing it in a public domain, because then it just gets out of control. In a public domain, then you've got your keyboard warriors, and certainly if somebody is trolling, the best thing to do there is ignore, and that's my advice there. Oh.
Thank you, Dara. That's great advice. David, you want to add anything there?
Very much, I'd agree very much with Dara. I think one of the big things that maybe there's one of the things is maybe a lack of explaining what it is you're trying to do. Communication, because I personally, I know I'm terrible for explaining fully what it is I'm trying to do or trying to say. I just presume people understand what I'm talking about, which is often not the case. But it is, you know, maybe to take the time to maybe explain it to as that's practicable. You know, you don't want to take the good out of something by trying to over explain something, by trying to spend all of your time cajoling somebody to come along who maybe doesn't want to come along, maybe doesn't understand it. There are, in many people's experience, you'll always find that person who is a problem for every solution, you know. And you know, and they oftentimes they bring up genuine points. You know, maybe they're very conservative people, maybe they're people who have had bad experiences in the past. You know, as we were talking about earlier on, there are often times where people would have done similar initiatives in the past, and maybe for one reason or another didn't work out. So it's important to consider that. But you know, you can only spend so long in the company of people who don't want to do something. You're better off trying to spend time in the company of people who will resolve the issues as they encounter them, as opposed to try to mitigate every problem that you mightn't even meet anyway. You know, but if people raise genuine concerns, it should be listened to and addressed. And if you go to all reasonable lengths to address their concerns and to mitigate their concerns or worries, and they still find a new one for you, you know, maybe there's something else that there's going on there, as Dara said. But I would feel that there is important. It's important that at any meeting or any group of people who are starting any initiative, that you have all opinions taken on board. You have, of course, the full enthusiasm of the people who have thought of it. You have the people who understand it, then who'll hop on board quite quickly as well. But then, as you move through the group of people that you're speaking to, there's different levels then of people of experiences that may have different viewpoints on that. So, as I say, you consider everyone's opinion, but if you need to accomplish something, you'll need to accomplish it. And you know, it's and while we're trying to bring everybody with you, not everybody wants to come. So you can't push people. You have to pull them along. No, sorry, you have to encourage them to follow you, not push them or pull them. You know, so that's really the thing. People must come with you willingly, because you'll always, at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, they're the guys who will tell you, "I told you so," as well. So if something, and oftentimes,
and they're waiting to tell you so.
No, they can't wait. But you know, it's something that it's something that can maybe take the momentum out of something as well. If you try to mitigate every possible negative outcome, then you're going to spend all your time worrying, as opposed to being optimistic about the outcome. But it is important to communicate with people. And speaking from somebody who is a very poor communicator when it comes to getting stuff done, but people, as a rule, people are very supportive. People, as a rule, want things to succeed, and oftentimes they're things that they don't necessarily get a direct benefit from. They just feel that it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to have in our community, and also that they know it's there if they need it. And please God, with like initiative like this, most aspects of what we have in place won't be needed by people. We're just the primary function of this group in this together group is to provide a sense that you're not on your own. We're in it together. We're in it together. We're going through it together. We'll come out the far side of it together, and you know, it'll change us how we see each other, and hopefully to the good.
Absolutely. We're we all are in this together. And so we are the community, and everything that we do has to be together. Do you know, there's a difference between critic and criticism. And you find people who will give great critique. And in critiquing whatever it is that's been done, they're coming from a point of wanting it to succeed. But there are people who are constantly criticizing. And like you both have said, there's something else. There probably is something else behind that constantly criticizing whatever it is that's being done around them. So that kind of negative energy might just pull spirits down. So sometimes you just want to let it be and focus on people who are willing to come along.
And also, just something there. Sometimes it's important as well to remember that they might be right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, it might be me that's wrong in this one, and it won't be the first time or the last time.
Well, Keith here says, with negativity comes an opportunity. So when you hear that, it's what I always say to people as a matter of fact. When people say something you don't want to hear, so it sounds a bit painful, yes, it might be painful, but when you get back, you see it, because there might just be something in there for you to really, truly, genuinely fix. So not everything is about you. Sometimes it's about an issue, and examine it. Take what is in there for you and try and fix it. Timothy, thank you for joining us. We're coming close to the end of the show. Mary McHugh, thank you for joining us. Very interesting discussion. Thank you, Mary. It's great that you're joining us. It's sharing with Yemi. You can listen back later. Timothy says, from your time handling this community, what is the most surprising impact your community has had on someone or the community? Something you did not aim for, but it happened. If it was awesome. That's a question for you guys.
I mean, there's been many things that we've both done, I suppose, in the community. And one thing that sticks out with me, and maybe it's not quite this, but last year, as I said earlier, we ran the Leinster Fleadh Cheoil in Athboy, and one of the initiatives, and it was our friend Emer that came up with the idea, was to run a series of workshops for inclusive workshops for people with additional needs. And we had some music therapists came along for a week, and we had people came from all over Leinster over the course of a week. We had about 120, I think, people, adults and children with additional needs, came to Athboy and did a course of music therapy, and it was the most inspirational thing. And we got more out of it than we ever thought we'd get out of it. It was inspiring, and I think one of the reasons it worked so well was because we had the perfect venue, because in Athboy, in Athboy Convent Community Centre, we have the facilities. Like, it's an absolutely fantastic venue. So, we were able to cater for people with all needs. And I think this was one thing that certainly when I went into it, I didn't realise the impact it would have on the people participating, on the people facilitating, on the volunteers, and on anybody who helped out. And that's just one example that just started off as a small idea and worked with the Leinster Fleadh, and it became just one of the highlights of the whole week, in my opinion.
Oh, that is so brilliant. That is brilliant. Well, guys, we're coming close to the end of the show. I want to begin to say thank you. I really appreciate your time sharing of your inspirational work within the Athboy community with everyone who's been listening here today. I think that there are a few people here who are going to actually get involved in the community, maybe anew or even more. Some people probably weren't involved before, but this might just be the kickstart they needed to get involved. And the one thing I want you to leave people with is, some people might think that, oh, I can't get involved because I can't go out. I'm not a frontline worker, so I wouldn't be allowed to get involved. I wouldn't go knocking on people's doors. There is that opportunity to do things virtually, like you mentioned, Dara. So while people cannot become physically connected to other people, just in 30 seconds, very quick, what other way can they get involved? What can they do without physically going to people, knowing that there are limitations to doing that? David?
I would say there's first of all, continue to do what they're doing. Continue to self-isolate. That's the most important thing. Continue to wash your hands. That's very good. But you can connect virtually through obviously the Athboy in This Together page, and there will be plenty of opportunities to get involved, showcased across that. Whether it's participating in any future shows that may be happening, providing information that's happening in your locality through Athboy in This Together, or being inspired by it and thinking of something that we haven't even thought of yet. That may yet be to come.
Absolutely.
So just one thing I forgot to say, and it's very important to mention. Dara Englishby is also the Athboy Personality of the Year. So we have around St. Patrick's Day, the people of Athboy have an opportunity to select their favourite Athboy person, and Dara Englishby is currently the Athboy Personality of the Year, and it's a long and strong tradition that we hold in Athboy. It goes back 30 or 40 years, and Dara is the righteous and correct person, because as you can even from talking to her today, you see what kind of a super person that she is. So that's just something important to remember and to highlight, that Dara does good work all year round.
Why am I not surprised? And rightfully and justly so. Well done. Well done. You are an inspiration, not just to your community, but to everyone who is listening and watching today. Well done. Keep up the work. Keep up the community spirit. Keep inspiring people. Very quickly, Carmel Reynolds has joined us, and I'm going to take your comment there. It says, in this, where are we going now? In This Together, Athboy was absolutely brilliant yesterday. I enjoyed it, and while I was cocooned in my house. Well done. Very good. Thank you for sharing that, Camel. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of it. Dara, it's been a pleasure having you and sharing with Yemi today. Thank you for sharing your motivational work in the community and for inspiring us all. David, thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
And keep up your good work, Yemi. You do so much good work in the community as well. It's important to be remembered for and to be recognized for that. So
thank you. I try. Thank you very much. God bless you guys.
Mind yourself. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
There we go, guys. It's been great having my guest, David and Dara, on the show today. These are two people who have inspired the communities so tremendously. There you have it. So the question I'm leaving you with today is, who is the community? I mean, if you're able to answer that genuinely, then you will realize how important you are as a fabric of the community. You are a part of the community. As a matter of fact, you are the community. So remember that whatever actions you take, whether positive or negative, will definitely impact on your community. So it's about time you started to think about how you can positively impact your community. The how is very simple. Get involved. It's easy to complain, sit on the fence, and take one side, which is most times the negative side. But the hard part is actually coming up with a solution for a problem. So if you can be part of a solution, then you're part of the solution for your community, building a better one. So I encourage you today, get involved. You know you can't physically go to people in these difficult times, but there's so much more that you can do virtually. All you need to do is ask the right questions. How can I be involved? Thank you so much for being here with us and sharing with Yemi today. I hope you've been motivated, and I hope that you start doing something new in your community. Have a great evening. Join me again tomorrow at 7 p.m. God bless you. Stay home and stay safe. Goodbye.